Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. In this video today I'm going to have a chat with you about my biggest red flag, and it's one of them where I don't like narrowing in on groups of people. I don't like because there's the old thing about OAPs are the tight ones and all that. Well, no, there's just tight people in all walks of life, isn't there? Just the same if somebody rings up and says, what's your hourly rate? I don't instantly think, nah, they're not for me, I'll get rid of them. You treat as you find, don't you? And the group I'm about to mention, I will still quote on it. I will still go and entertain. For me, I entertain every single quote. Now, the group that I'm on about is actually us self-employed folk, would you believe? It's self-employed folk, business owners. Whenever I work for them, there seems to be problems, and for me this is why I have classed it as my biggest red flag. Now, quick disclaimer, this is my thoughts and feelings. I've come to this by experience, just the same as once bit twice shy. For me, I've noticed a trend, a pattern. It's not just that this is one time or other times. It's happened multiple times by this group of people, basically. So much so that whenever I hear, people mention it, now it's like I've got that shudder, just the same as, rabbits and, some parts of wildlife. If you see eyes or the colour red or stripes, they avoid it. And for me, I'm like, oh. Now, like I said, I've got one more caveat, and this one for me is ultimately the clue that it's going to be a problem is when they tell me. So I work for business owners, ex-business owners, and they don't really cause me a problem, if I'm being honest with you. But the people that tell me that they run a business, or they know what it takes to run a business, or they bring up being self-employed, especially when they're using it to sort of make themselves sound better. So here's one for you. Oh yeah, I know exactly what it takes to run a business. My uncle used to run a business, and I know exactly how important cash flow is to you in regular work. Whenever people bring up about how they know how to run a business, or they know somebody, instantly for me it's a shudder, if I'm being honest with you. Would I walk away there and then? You treat as you find, don't you? And this is the thing, if it's major red flags, so if you go and they've said all that and then you've got this big feeling and the work's not for you and they've started knocking you down on the price, that's when you walk away. But if a job is, and don't think, oh well, Sam says it's a red flag, I won't take on any business owners. You treat as you find in this industry. You've got to, because otherwise you'll have no customers. There is perfect customers in air quotes, but if you go off there, oh yeah, no, this bloke's had trouble with OAPs, I won't work for them. This bloke's had trouble with business owners, I won't work for them. This bloke's had trouble with people who've never gardened before, they've got a messy garden. You'll never work for people at the end of the day. You treat as you find in this industry. So I'll give you two instances. This isn't the only two. There's others, if I'm being honest with you. I've got more on this than I have tight OAPs, basically, or tight people. It's, like I said, it's the business group. And thinking back to it, it's when they mention they know what it takes to be self-employed, or when they bring it up, or when they include that in their sort of opening like bid to sort of get the work off you, or to get you interested, like I said. So I took on a guy, this was last year, and he come up to me and he talked to me and he said, oh yeah, I'm self-employed myself and I like to use local tradesmen to support them, all that sort of stuff. No problem at all. I went and did the job for him, no problem at all, gave him the price. It was £130 for a hedge cut. It was quick, sort of brief. I don't like talking about prices, but I need to as a point of reference, because I'm going to give you the next price, and if I don't give you the first one, you'll be like, wow, is it a rip-off, isn't it a rip-off? So this hedge was an ivy, it was a laurel. there was ladder work, there was a lot of waste, probably 3 bags, ton bags full of waste, and he wanted a hard reduction. He didn't want it to like the core twigs, but he wanted it really pushing back. And in many ways, I'd rather take it right back, because you can get behind it with a loppers or a chainsaw, opposed to, say, cutting half of its growth off. Like I said, same all the way around with ladders. It was, a bit of a finicky job. Time wise, I think it was a few hours worth of work, 3 hours. Like I said, that's the price I charged him last season for it. He wanted a hard reduction, so at some point he said, I want Christmas time, winter time, I want it cut in half. I said, that's no problem at all. I will book you in. I'll ring to book you in. I rung to book him in. Oh, could you call us next month? Could you call me next month? Could you call me next month? And that went on all year up until last month, where he said, yep, no problem, we're ready for you now. And I drive past this thing, so I've seen it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, I know it needs some work on it. And I went to him, had a nice little chat with him, 10-15 minutes sort of thing. He wanted the other hedge cutting, which this hedge was straightforward, but again he wanted a good cut on it. He did mention that the neighbour's a bit of a nightmare, so I'll be honest with you, I didn't price for that, but at the back of your mind you're thinking, you know what, this could be one of them jobs where you spend 15 minutes getting an ear bashing, or at the best some nosy old guy telling you he wants more off it, and then you're going back and forward to the customer. So gave him the price on that, and this time I went in at £200, so I added £70 onto it. And I'll be honest with you, looking back and breaking the quote down, I think I've shot myself in the foot with that one. But he's a repeat customer, it is what it is. But it never got that far, so I gave him the price. He said, yep, fantastic, no problem at all. Could you give me some dates and I will book you in? That's no problem at all. So I provisionally booked him in. I looked ahead on my diary, a couple of sort of dates in mind, dropped him a text with them dates, text message straight back over WhatsApp, and he was online at this point, so I could see, hi Sam, I'm happy with the price is fine with me. Unfortunately the missus has put the foot down. Could you give us a text in another month or so to see if we still need it doing? And you can't rule out miscommunication. So I emailed a quote over to him. He might not have received that. It might have gone straight to spam. So I wanted to make it clear that the £200 wasn't £200 extra. It was, an extra £70. So I sort of broke it down into a text message for him. I could see that he read it. There was no sort of thing. I did try and drop him a call. I don't chase work, and I don't chase people after a knockback, but at the same time, if there is miscommunication, it could be sorted out in a phone call. Nothing. Heard nothing off him at all. No text message back after explaining that. And I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a favour price, if I'm being honest with you. And no, I have drove past since and he's had it cut. He has done it himself. I actually saw him do it himself. So there is that sort of thing there that it's not, he's not got somebody else cheaper. I'll be honest with you, I think I probably would have been the cheapest on that one, which adds insult to injury but doesn't add insult to injury. But it's just the amount of time that's wasted. I know it's not a huge amount. It's just the time that's wasted, the fact that he could have just, text back, that's no problem, money's anything. It's just the time that's wasted. The amount of times, though, that I hear it with people where they'll say that, yes, I know what it takes to be self-employed. There always people say about regular cash flow. My 3 late payers are all people that are business owners, would you believe it? They're all people that own businesses or self-employed, that they know cash flow is important for a business, and they're all late payers. It's weird. Like I said, you can't help but notice a trend. I had a lady the year before, took her on, and she said to me, again, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, 11 days, 12 days, 13 days, 14 days, 15 days, 16 days, 17 days, 18 days, 19 days, 20 days, 21 days, 22 days, 23 days, 24 days, 25 days, 26 days, 27 days, 28 days, 29 days, 30 days, 31 days, 32 days, 33 days, 34 days, 35 days, 36 days, 37 days, 38 days, 39 days, 40 days, 41 days, 42 days, 43 days, 44 days, 45 days, 46 days, 47 days, 48 days, 49 days, 50 days, 51 days, 52 days, 53 days, 54 days, 55 days, 56 days, 57 days, 58 days, 59 days, 60 days, 61 days, 62 days took her on, and I remember on a conversation, she was actually made a point of saying that my husband used to run a business. So, you know, we know all about, you know, businesses and running costs. So, you know, basically, she actually said, you won't get any trouble from us. Wow, I was wrong. They were the most troublesome customers I've ever had. And for me, they were the customers where I tried to help them the most. And I've learned now, like I said, this was a couple of years ago, I don't make these mistakes again. I tried to help him in air quotes, you know, because she lost her husband, unfortunately. So there's a part of me that felt sorry for her, but then also there's a part of her that every time there was payment, she was almost shaking the can. So, oh yes, ever since your husband's gone, money's been tight, I've been struggling for money. Oh, it's so expensive to maintain a property, all this sort of stuff. And I think looking back on it, it's, in my opinion, it's some form of like emotional thing. It's the equivalent of me when I go to, you know, a customer paying me and they've got the purse open. It's the equivalent of me giving her a woes, you know, me story. Oh yeah, ever since I had me up, I've not bounced back, and oh, I'm struggling to run. I'd never dream of doing it, if I'm being honest with you. So she ended up chopping and changing the dates. The first one I rolled over for on her, so I said, yeah, no problem, we'll do and this is another little aside here, I've learned that if you try and help people, they'll take advantage. Not everyone, but for this lady, she said about the cost of this because she bought a second property, and she said about the cost of keeping it going was very expensive. And she said, so I used to go up to this property once every 2 weeks to do it. And it was a ball ache. I had to go get the keys off her, drop the keys back off. She never trusted me with a key, even though it was to the side gate and no one's there. So like, what's the point, you know? So like I said, it was always problems. So she said about, could you do it as a monthly visit instead because of the costs? And I think sometimes you talk yourself into it. So I talked myself into it, and I thought, well, it's a ball ache going there, so I'll just do it once a month. But what I said to her is that I can keep it the same price, but I can't do the same amount of work. Sorry, I can't give the same finish. I says, so the lawn will be done. Every so often the shrubs will be done. I says, the borders, unfortunately, will just have to be left because you're going from, you know, a £35 visit every fortnight to a £35 visit every 4 weeks. So literally, you're getting the bare minimum. You're just getting tick over, basically. That's no problem. Thank you for helping me, all that sort of stuff. Literally, the first, you know, after I've done the first one, oh, we noticed the borders aren't, you know, you notice you haven't done the borders, explained again. Oh, well, we just flick over them because I don't want you, you know, I don't want them to get on top of, so you do that. But then, because you've done that the once, you have to do it again the next time and the next time and the next time. Then she was moaning about the edging. Oh, I don't think the edging's been done, or the edging would have been done. You know, so it just went on and on like that. And then she started pinching back on the other property. Could you do that every so often, or as and when? And in the end, I had to say no to her. And remember, at the start, this lady told me that she knows about running a business. She knows about regular cash flow. She knows about reliable customers. Remember, you won't get a problem off me. Well, you know, when you think to yourself, you'd love to sit there and tell people that, you know, tell people and say to people, you know, why we need to charge the prices. Well, my advice to you is don't get the last word and just walk away. Because that's what I did with this lady. I tried to appeal to her business side, and I explained to her that initially your properties were taken on as fortnightly and they were given a set price fortnightly. They've both evolved into monthly properties but kept at the same price, and it means that I'm having to do basically double the work for the same amount of money, which means now that instead of a job's taking, you know, 40 minutes each or 50 minutes each, they're taking an hour and 20, but also the wear and tear on the equipment. Now I thought that was a reasonable response, but she didn't. She went from, remember, the shrewd business owner at the start to, oh, well, I told you that money, it's all about her problems, not my problems, which she was actually quite sympathetic at the start. In the end, I said to her, the only thing I can do is the one property that you want, you know, you want doing every so often, because that's what she then upped it to. And remember this, when people get you to go from a fortnightly to 3 weekly, it will be 4 weekly. And then 4 weekly will be every 5 or 6 weeks. So remember that, guys. And yep, she only saw it from her side of view. And so in the end, I says to her, look, I think it'd be better if you find somebody to do the as and when cut. And this as and when cut, it was a fortnightly and it was a ball ache. So it went from fortnightly to 4 weekly. And it was one of them where it was just hideous. It looked horrible. And it's quite upsetting really, because her garden used to be really nice. And if anything, it's got worse. And I hate that, you know. I don't want to be associated with something like that, because it's out of my control. So she wanted a fast growing lawn that's really, you know, you're struggling to keep on top of it on a 4 weekly. She wants that doing as and when she sees fit for the same price. So I suggested that, and she says, well, if you don't do one garden, you don't do both of them, basically. I said, that's fine. I said, that's no problem at all. I said, I wish you luck in finding a new gardener. And she actually did say to me before that, she says, well, there's plenty of people that want to do my garden. Well, she rung me back up a few days later saying that, you know, could we get back on track? What will it take for you to come back to do my gardens? I said, I'm sorry, but the ship sailed now. I said, I don't want to keep working because it could end up being a situation that we both don't like. And I left it at that. Coincidentally, I used to do some gardening for one of her friends, and how convenient, she stopped having me as well. It is what it is. Like I said, just a quick summary of this chat. I'm not saying don't work for self-employed people. I'm not saying don't work for, you know, business owners. I just find sometimes the majority of times when they bring up, they know what it takes to run a business and how important it is to run a business, typically they end up causing me problems. I listen to a lot of other YouTube gardeners. I think whenever a post pops up on a Facebook group from another, you know, gardener, typically when you see these nightmare customer stories, typically it's a business owner, a wealthy person, a self-made person. Maybe there's a trend. Maybe people know, you know, we can get a bit off here. I don't know. But like I said, you will not get perfection in this industry. You will get problems from all age groups, demographics, backgrounds, appearances. You know, there's problems from all of them. I've been to people where they've got dump gardens and they look as weird as anything, but they've been absolutely lovely people. And I've also gone to them and they've been absolute nightmares. You can't judge a book by its cover in this industry. You can, but you could be proven wrong. So have a good day, guys. As usual, keep on gardening.